So when the oil is gone, what? That depends upon how you use the revenues from oil now. If you don't use them wisely, then it's catastrophic. So what you have to do is, whilst you've got these oil revenues, build up other assets. Assets in a broad sense. Assets can include skills, human skills, as well as capital. And the assets can include investment in the country and assets abroad, wherever you get the best overall return, basically. So there's a prudence for the future demands that you build those assets up, and that's often very difficult because the political pressures at the moment are always to use oil revenues for consumption. So it's very tempting to accede to those pressures and throw a consumption party. A lot of the economies I work in have done just that. I work a lot on Nigeria, and nobody throws a better party than the Nigerians, but the younger generation is very cross that the older generation didn't do more with their oil revenues to build a future. The region contains a multitude of very different countries with very different degrees of success, and indeed with different opportunities. The Gulf states have got so much oil that their substantial strategy has been to build assets abroad. But a particularly successful country that's diversified away from oil is Dubai, which after all never had very much oil, but has turned itself into a service economy for a very big region, really. When I was last in Dubai, the normal occupancy of the hotel I stayed in was 95% Russian. So Dubai's turned itself into a rest and recreation facility for rich Russians. So Dubai demonstrated sort of courage and ingenuity in diversifying its economy. And economies such as North Africa, which generally have less oil than the Gulf states, need to follow some strategy for diversification, whether it be into manufacturers or services. North Africa is very well located for the big market of Europe, both for manufacturers and for services. So compared with most of the economies I usually work on, the Middle East is superbly located. I should say it's not just a matter of what happens when the oil runs out, because there's another possibility, which is that at some stage the oil gets less valuable. And there are two ways that could come about. One is that you get an awful lot of oil discoveries in other places, and that's now happening. North America is going to be self-sufficient in carbon energy, I think, for the next century, because the new technologies have discovered so much more oil and gas. So there's a danger of the market being so oversupplied that prices come down. There's another danger, which is that we've now discovered more oil than we can ever burn without overheating the planet, and so we won't be able to use all this oil. At some stage, the world is going to have to devise a regulatory regime which says we stop burning as much oil. And so the old idea that you just keep depleting the oil until you run out of the last barrel maybe wrong, maybe over-optimistic, as it were. You may find that you run out of oil, or the oil revenues run down, dwindle, much before you exhaust the oil. So the task of diversifying the economy, of building other assets, is more urgent. I think what I particularly advise with the oil funds is to recognise that those funds can be used for domestic asset formation as well as for foreign asset accumulation. And you need some decision structure within the funds that allows that choice to be made without it being contaminated by sort of political romanticism which says spend it all here now. So you need political defences, but I think the choice of domestic versus foreign asset accumulation is a real one. When we turn to foreign asset accumulation, just over the last 3 years, portfolio choices have changed astonishingly. Until 3 years ago, the big area for investment was the OECD, and now all professional investors recognise that they're over-invested in the OECD. They all wish they were in the BRICS, but the trouble is, because they all wish that, it's already in the price. And so the smart investors have to look beyond the OECD and beyond the BRICS to the frontier economies. So that's the challenge for all the big asset holders, is to learn about the frontier markets and start moving their assets there.